Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd and Aaron McIntyre. We're going to be joined by our old friend, comedian Tim Young here in just a matter of moments. We are brought to you by our friends over at Relief Factor. If you're struggling with too much chronic pain, that's probably because you have too much inflammation, and that's where Relief Factor comes in. We're not guaranteeing you anything. But what we can tell you is that over the last several years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start that I'm about to suggest to you from Relief Factor. 70% of them have seen such great results that they've stuck with the product long term. So why don't you see, if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less, especially when it's only going to cost you $20 to find out. That's it, just $20 to find out. Pretty good value bet, 70% success odds at just $20 at relieffactor.com. Again, that's relieffactor.com. Mr. Young, it is good to see you, brother. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm very excited about these topics today, by the way. Like I'm excited to burn bridges and burn more bridges.
Yes, I mean, the good thing is that you are not here in person. You and Todd will come to blows, literally, probably over one of the topics, I would imagine. Okay.
Tim said he agreed with everything about me last time we got together. I just assume that's the new status quo now.
All right. So
I insult him because I don't want to be on the record as looking like I agree with him. I'm really playing the psychological game with you guys.
There's that, and then we're going to try to figure out why somebody who's worked in media for over 30 years has a dramatically different opinion over a belief system that's existed for thousands of years than they just had 6 months ago, and what in the world could have possibly provoked that level of transformation in terms of a viewpoint of that's at least, well, that's the one natural method. A supernatural one might have done it as well. So we'll get into all that and more next hour. It's Feedback Friday, but let's kick it off with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1, bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
I'm happy. I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. There's still work to be done. I'm still a president's wingman, so I'm there with my boy.
We can't overcome the politicization of the criminal justice system, the awesome power of the state. You can't have a situation in which whoever's in charge of the government starts using that to go after their political enemies or reward their friends.
Progressives and Democrats have a reluctance, an uncomfortability with the acquisition and the use of power. And Republicans don't have those problems.
The Republicans lie about loving America and being patriotic.
To me, a pride flag is way more relatable than an American flag. I would not raise an American flag at my house because I wouldn't. I wasn't even born here. But I would raise a pride flag.
There is no, thank God, dark room in Washington where people sit around and they decide here's who the nominee is going to be.
All Greens should be charged with first-degree corporate abandonment. Yes. It should be a crime the way they're treating our elders.
Is it true that folks are stealing? They're stealing everywhere. Is stealing right? No. But what's wrong is first-degree corporate abandonment.
The Laken-Riley Act. It was one of his biggest priorities. It stripped due process away from immigrants. There is a straight line from the Laken-Riley Act vote to what we saw in the streets of our communities.
Your thoughts on the idea of funding health care for undocumented immigrants statewide?
Yes. These are Californians. They contribute to our economy. They pay taxes, and they're one of the only ways that our state has been growing in recent years.
Donald Trump, he's got the shit touch. Everything he touches turns to shit.
I mean, who knows how many assassination attempts there could be just in the next day, or how many times Erica Kirk is going to switch from her sparkle pants to that weird video that she made. It's just bizarre.
Jesus was undocumented.
So here, if it was really Jesus telling Martha not to serve, not to be a deacon, then Jesus needed to learn his lesson and stand corrected.
Here's the thing, before we even dive in, we have to get one thing straight. Jesus did not come into this world to preach and to teach a my way or the highway kind of religion.
Because I do not believe Christ died for our sin.
When are you going to do an event with Tucker Carlson? Why don't you do a collab with Tucker Carlson? We love Tucker Carlson. Wherever I go. People ask me more about Tucker Carlson, even in my own family, than they ask me about my wife and kids.
Well, sure. I mean, you could pose attacks in the form of questions. I've certainly done that a lot, for sure. I like Israel. I've vacation.
Speaking for myself, I've never hated Israel. I vacation there.
We're Christians. They want to go to Jerusalem. I got it. I come to Israel and the infrastructure.
Holy cow. Holy cow. Holy moly. What's your name again? Tim. I'm sorry. That literally, I lost a synapse watching that, literally. I just had a crash out. My apologies, my friend. Tim, what was the most, I don't know, whatever thing that you just saw and why?
Okay, it has to be all the heresy coming from the pulpit now. I mean, this is becoming a common thing. You know, the Democrats are trying to push a James Tallarico character who is a complete heretic in Texas for Senate. And this is becoming more and more prominent. I'm seeing a clip like that every day of these horrible people at the pulpit saying something completely opposite the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, our gubernatorial candidate now wants you to know that our Democrat nominee here in Iowa wants you to know that all religions are the same. I mean, that's what he's campaigning on this. And again, people need to understand it's not that he's a Democrat so he believes this. It's that he believes this so that he's a Democrat. All right, that's the worldview that lends you to becoming one of them. That's the worldview that leads you there. Todd, what about you?
Do you remember those, smart aleck atheists in college? At least I do. And, they wanted to have a really edgy religion discussion. But that's cool. It's college. We're having a beer, whatever. We'll talk it out. But
like maybe Elijah really was carried away, on a UFO. They called it a chariot of fire, that kind of stuff.
Let's kick this stuff around, whatever. Yeah. But as soon as that person becomes a pastor, I am honestly, that's a total joke, but I'm less worried about him than I'm everybody who actually shows up on the regular to listen to it, to actually hear, this Jesus cat, he had a dressing down coming. And you're going there on the regular? Okay. But, I just wanted to echo where Tim went because I appreciate it so much. But I also have to hear what Tim says because, I love the ins and outs, the nuances of Aaron's montages, how he layers them and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've ever done it. I've got to go off the board and I got to know what Tim thinks. Tim, did you know that Ellen Page is playing Achilles in the Odyssey?
We're on this again.
We have not acknowledged this.
Did you know, Tim?
Nor will we.
It's a very tiny.
We don't
Achilles.
We don't engage.
Her Achilles heel is the boob she had cut off.
We need a comedian's take on this. We do. It's gold, Jerry. It's gold.
We don't engage in rumor and innuendo on this program, and we refuse to acknowledge such an unverified claim. No. But thank you, Todd. Aaron, what about you?
Oh, is that woman at that quote-unquote church, the empty husk of a church? Jesus didn't come to the world to preach a my way or the highway message. And she said that right after reading, I am the way, the truth, and the life. She read that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And she turned right around and said, this verse has been used to hurt people and to say that, diversity is not our strength, something like that. It's just yesterday in the conversation about aliens, UAPs that we had for Theology Thursday. It's just like these people are just taking, hey, it's me, Lucifer. It's me. Yeah, you got it right. It's me, Satan, the devil. It's not even twisting. It's just usually the most effective propaganda are half-truths. These are just full-on, nope, not really God isn't real. It's not, did God really say God isn't real? That's basically what they're saying. Honorable mention, though, to Jen Psaki saying that, thank God, there's no dark room where the nominee is chosen.
Yes.
Yeah, that's honorable mention. Or dishonorable.
And then I loved your pan over to Kamala. Listen, guys, we have got to mention the beginning. Okay. We have got to mention the beginning where we saw the most weaponized, the first, at least that I can remember, truly partisan weaponized attorney general in modern American history, and Eric Holder. Who, by the way, again, the hands up, don't shoot narrative was so fake, even Eric Holder debunked it. And people still on their side go around claiming this. How many years later now? So that narrative was, if there was a racial narrative there that Eric Holder could exploit, that he would. That's how fake that was, that even Eric Holder said, yeah, Michael Brown never said hands up, don't you? But I digress. The juxtaposition there, the triple axle of juxtapositions, Aaron, that you did there with Eric Holder weaponizing the DOJ, Barack Obama claiming we can't weaponize the DOJ or we lose the country. And of course, whose Attorney General was Eric Holder? Who did he work for? Which president?
Who's president?
Yeah.
Obama.
Yeah, Obama, yeah. And then followed by Eric Holder saying, we've actually, for the first time as a party, got to weaponize the DOJ. How you did that with all three of those positions.
It's just shameless.
Just taken with great confidence and literally sociopathic levels of certainty by those three positions taken by those two men. And just the way that you sequenced them, my friend, that was sinister, but superfluous in its genius. I mean, that is incredible. What to that beginning was.
And if only that was evidence of why they will never come close to winning again in recent, down in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite is true. That's why they will win again relatively soon, because they're far more shameless and full of guile than our side is.
Yes, there's no question about that. And it's hard. It's hard to be more shameless than Donald Trump. I mean, that's one of his superpowers, frankly. He's used it to his advantage his whole life. He'll be his own PR agent and fake, like, my name's John Barron on the phone. I mean, it's hard, all right, to do that to Trump. They have a subterranean level that you only go to, frankly, supernaturally. You only do that under a supernatural inducement. And you certainly can't do it. One of the reasons why I think that when Trump does it, he does it with humor. And Tim, you know this probably as a comedian, and maybe you wouldn't back me up on this. So let's test it out. I think one of the reasons why when Trump is shamelessly approaching an issue, that he does it with humor, is because it's almost easier to deflect your own tells that it's shameless. You see what I'm saying? Than when you're doing it straight up. Because you can't really do it straight up unless you're a sociopath. You can't do it straight up, and you can do it through humor. And then when you kind of smile a little bit, people are like, "Oh, he's making it funny. He's not like revealing that maybe this isn't all the way on the up and up here." You can only do it, I think, in a non-humorous setting with that kind of certainty you saw from Holder and Obama when you're just a straight up sociopath, Tim.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I have nothing to add to that. You're right.
And I mean, that's incredible. And now imagine that gets beamed into the homes of and onto the devices of, at a minimum, 40% of the country every single day, over and over again, day after day, month after month, year after year.
Yeah.
That's going to have an effect, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to make it very, very hard to live with the people that are not receiving those tells and those signs and wonders and
because with that
and gaslights.
With the people paying attention and ready to go on offense, places like Iowa would be locked down red indefinitely. But you know better than anybody that's not even close to the case after all the work you've put in. So,
and by the way, with that beaming to your phones directly, when you take a look at Media Research Center has been doing the research on this with Apple, Google, all those news sites, Yahoo, when they push news stories, it's like 1 in 300 stories is from a conservative outlet. And usually they're buried like 20 down.
Yep. And it's all their framing, all their messaging, right? On virtually everything. Correct. Yep.
Can I interject a quick...
Meanwhile, hold 1 second, Aaron. Yes, you can, but let me say this. Meanwhile, Tim, we can't pass a bill that normies support by 80%. That would make it easier for us to win elections. We can't do that, but they are able to iron grip every last platform along the lines of what you just itemized.
Big success.
I'm sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
The last video of Tucker Carlson waxing poetic about how much he loves Israel. That is credit to at IL Tour Board on X, who created that video. I want to give proper attribution. And it's spelled BORED for those of you looking for it. Very small account, by the way.
Exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with the odds even the most beautiful woman in this audience has to be worried about being sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham. And 10 being the odds that our guy, Tim here, does. Keep your distance, Tim. Rank this week's level of total depravity. Todd.
10.
Tim.
I usually do like 2 or 3. It's a 10 when you start getting involved in the church the way they have.
Yep. Aaron.
Democrats, heretics, and Tucker Carlson. That's a 12 for me.
Yeah. All right. Ding, ding. Issue 2, How to Save Star Wars. All right. So I don't know if you guys saw this. These were numbers that came out, streaming numbers from Nielsen that came out. Star Wars Day was May 4th. Right. So all the platforms are leveraging and promoting all their Star Wars content to take advantage of Star Wars Day. And so Nielsen went back and took a look at what was watched and what wasn't. And then over the course of 2025 as well. Nielsen says U.S. viewers watched 33 billion minutes of Star Wars content in 2025, but the top 3 most streamed titles were Star Wars, the first one, A New Hope, The Phantom Menace, and Rogue One. Not one sequel trilogy film even cracked the top 10. All right, fans watched 637 million minutes of Star Wars content on May 4th alone, but the modern feminist Star Wars acolyte was barely watched like at all. They spent over $200 million on that. So this is very clearly a broken brand. You have The Mandalorian, the Grogu, and Grogu, I think that's coming out later this month, isn't it? I believe it's coming out later this month. And this has, obviously prices are different now, so you have to adjust for inflation, okay? But adjusted for inflation, this is in the era, in the modern era of pre-sales, which is about 20, 25 years. In modern era of pre-sales of tickets, so the Fandango kind of era, it's not even close. This is the worst pre-selling Star Wars film of all time, okay? So behind when they've brought back the originals with new features or it's not looking good. Even though the Mandalorian was considered the one good series that's been done in this era that people genuinely liked, and so that's why.
Season.
What's that?
For one season.
For one season, and then one scene at the end of the second season. Fair.
Yeah.
The Skywalker scene. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I have a suggestion of how to save this franchise. Okay. 4 of them actually. Number 1. Produce no live action content for 5 years. Instead, produce one high-end animation feature that takes place. It's a side adventure that takes place in between the original trilogy movies with what was going on with the beloved characters. Aim it right at kids, all right, and try to reach the kids, and build goodwill. Number 2, take all the attractions at the theme parks and refit them all to only be about the 6 Lucasfilms. Remake Rise of the Resistance, which is an incredible attraction, by the way. If you get a chance to do that once in your life, you have to. But I would remake Rise of the Resistance into Rise of the Rebellion, Smuggler's Run into Solo's Run, etc. I'd refit everything into the original trilogy. Number 3, I'd bring back as much nostalgia during this 5-year waiting period as we could. I'd market only the unifying and hopeful characters and content of the past that remain timeless, that people are still watching, according to the Nielsen data, despite the broken brand. And number 4, 5 years from now, I'd begin a new trilogy based on Timothy Zahn's outstanding bestsellers depicting what happened after Return of the Jedi. It was the first new Star Wars content post-Jedi that George Lucas ever officially licensed. Those books went on to sell, I think, around 25 million copies or something like that. I'd recast all the original characters, still in their prime, with unknowns, after I made sure I searched everything they've ever posted on social media ever. And then I'd forbid them all from ever making political or cultural comments as part of the moral clauses in their deals, as long as they were active with their character arcs in this universe. And I do the same for directors, producers, key grips, best boys, groupies, literally everybody, interns, literally all of them. The whole thing needs a Clockwork Orange scrubbing, a Silkwood shower. So, with that, Todd, I'm going to let you go first this time. Thoughts on my plan?
The fact that you had to try so hard is the reason why we shouldn't try at all. Kylo Ren had it right. Let the past die, Steve. You don't answer.
Kill it if you have to.
You don't answer the question. Why? Why do any of that? Hasn't it earned the right to be killed?
I don't disagree, but since you asked me why, I would say we're not lacking for inspirations to help people become better versions of themselves in popular culture than they currently are in the regular culture.
This one has forfeited the right. It has no intention to. It has abused the privilege that it had. The only thing keeping it alive is nostalgia. We need to kill it. It has earned it. And the reason why, this is my point about why they can get away with that level, Obama and company, with that level of shamelessness, is because over here on the other side, These are the idols. This is our true religion. We need to smash these things. We are so drunk on all of this stuff, and it has been used against us. That is obviously true now. We are just this is a crack addiction that we need to stop. Otherwise, we will perish.
Aaron?
Yeah, so foundationally, we're off kilter. We're not square foundationally. And part of that foundation are the people making decisions about the future of this and other IPs that are well-beloved, or at least once were well-beloved. The fact that Steve in Des Moines, pretty smart Steve in Des Moines, that's why you signed the front of my checks and not the back of my checks, but the fact that Steve in Des Moines can come up with a 4-point plan like this on some, what was it, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning?
Random Tuesday morning. I literally just got off the toilet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're probably taking a dump.
Yep.
You were able to formulate a 4-point plan, fire it off, makes a lot of sense. It addresses a lot of the issues. The fact that Steve in Des Moines, smart Steve at that, can come up with this, and yet Disney is, we've got Kylo Ren, we've got Rey.
That's
the problem. So that's one fundamental. The other fundamental, the other foundation here that's off kilter, that's not square, is what Todd's talking about. Because a lot of these things could be successful if they were just making money. Just barely making money, not printing money.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Because if they had to respect the fact that their audience might walk away if they screw things up, they would make different decisions. If it was truly a profit motivation. I know there's other things in there as well. But the fact that the audience just keeps coming back for this tripe, that's another fundamental problem. So it's a great plan, but you're working against a couple of foundational issues.
I just want to echo that quick. But Steve, I've seen you come up with 5-point plans. You're one of the true modern polymaths. The world's 5-point plans on a lot of things that most people couldn't. This one, a child could come
100%.
up. It's obvious, Steve.
100%.
They won't do it.
Yep.
Why are we anointing it with any of our blood, talent, treasure, children? Why? It's a cult. That's why. And it's sad and pathetic.
All right, Tim, you can rein in. Go ahead.
I wouldn't trust Disney to make a child's program again for like 10 years. I'd wait till the culture totally shifts and hope that we win politically and that conservatives actually start influencing culture the way that we should be at this point. Because if they made a children's program, there'd at least be one they, them. There'd be at least one set of gay dads. I just don't trust them to do anything like that. I would absolutely not make any products for 10 years, period. Let it die. Go back to the original stuff. I never read those books. I'm not nerdy enough to read those books, but I trust you on it, Steve. Also, speaking about modern Star Wars problems, Smuggler's Run. I always ride that as a single rider because the girlfriend doesn't like those types of rides. So I get on it, and I got on it 8 times actually the last time I went to Disney, which was not too long ago.
It's a great ride.
Yeah, except for when you get on it with non-English speaking people, which was every time. It's a beatable ride. You can win that game.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't when those people don't speak English and don't hit the buttons. So it becomes a very frustrating, another commentary on our current society.
Yes. So it's also being upheld by illegal.
And I'm not making that up. I was furious. Like 3 or 4 times in a row, I was saying, you guys don't speak
Fire!
Yeah. I was hitting the button. I reached over and hit the button. I reached up. I'm not even kidding you. I was able to reach up and I pulled the lever for the hyperspace because they weren't pulling the lever. There's a green light and a lever. Why would you not pull the lever?
Tim, did you know Ellen Page is playing a kill? Stop!
Her Achilles heel or her cut off boobs.
Listen, I'm actually sympathetic to the idea of just not making any more. There are great franchises that in their time, I mean, we're not making any more Gone with the Wind. People can still go back and watch the original Gone with the Wind that was a pop culture force of nature in the late 1930s. You can still go back and appreciate and watch that for what it is. I mean, James Cameron's, Titanic at the time was the highest grossing film of the 1990s, adjusted for inflation. Not making any more Titanic content. We're not doing Titanic 2, Titanic 3. I mean, I'm totally fine with not making any more and enjoying what they once did from a nostalgia standpoint. I'm totally fine with that.
But don't just be sympathetic. Go on offense. Kill it. Just like you've...
Well, it sounds to me like you think they already kind of have.
Like you've talked about, but we discipline our kids, right? Because we love them. That's not just nostalgia. I love it. I just wish it wasn't No, punish it like it deserves. It's righteous and good, and that's the only way you'll get something good back. Otherwise, your kid's going to turn into a brat like Star Wars has.
All right, Todd. Which one of the original characters would be played by that trans thing in the wheelchair that went to the Met Gala? If they redid it, Han,
R2D2. Sorry, I should have done that.
How did you think this segment was going to go, Steve?
I had no idea. I had a bad feeling about this from the beginning.
That's the problem. You should have.
Get the pun. Yeah. Now, I obviously, when I posted this, you know me well enough to know, I did not think anybody over at Buena Vista was going to be like, and Disney was going to be like, hey, we hadn't thought about these things. You know what?
But you still want it.
I wouldn't mind if they did it. I know they won't. Okay. But this is also a thinking exercise. I'm actually kind of doing this to prove your point, which is that these are achievable things, which you said a few minutes ago. Any 11 or 12-year-old,
yes.
All right, that's ever owned a Star Wars comic book or action figure or played a video game could come up with this, right?
So why are the 40-year-old losers the one who keep pushing it along?
And so that's when you get to the point of if it's very obvious and yet they won't do it, right? All right, let's get to the exit question. If the future of Star Wars was a line of dialogue from one of the movies, which line of dialogue would it be? A, Todd's favorite, let the past die. Kill it if you have to. B, I have a bad feeling about this. C, strike me down, and I will become even more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Or D, never tell me the odds. Aaron.
Let the past die. Kill it if you
so
must.
You're an A.
On the one hand, didn't they actually fire her finally?
Yeah, she is gone at the end of this year. Yeah, she is gone. Yeah.
I already asked and answered, and I didn't look what my options were. So.
Okay, all right. Tim, where are you at?
Yeah, let the past die.
Wow. Guys, I think you don't understand. If Tim Young is telling you, who still collects a lot of this kind of stuff, if Tim Young is telling you.
Hey, by the way, pro tip for the people who go to the parks, you can buy the lightsabers from the poor people who can't afford them anymore off of Mercari for like half price.
Life hacks.
You complete me, Tim
Life
Young.
hacks from Tim Young.
You complete
I have like 6 of them now. I look at them and I take a picture and I go to Mercari and I get them for like $80.
I really thought you guys were going to throw down, and I needed that today. Instead, I made a love connection. I did not end. I did not end. You know, and they say Star Wars isn't bringing people together and unifying folks anymore. Look at what just happened here on this show. I mean, this is the most symbiotic you and Tim have ever been. And I thought for sure I was going to pick a fight and then just, let you guys go at it for about 10 minutes.
I'm wearing my Disney hoodie right now. I
Even
just
so.
went there a couple weeks ago.
There you go. All right, when we come back, this is one of the most incredible transformations on an issue that has not changed any of its conditions at all. Like, no facts have changed. No conditions that would cause us to reassess our view of this issue have occurred. Nothing's happened that would cause the level of radical change of opinion that Megyn Kelly has had about Islam this year. Not in the last couple of years, this year. That isn't even half over yet. We're going to discuss this here next.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. We're brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Make the switch today like we did 6 years ago, and we've never looked back as a family. Our whole family has been with Patriot Mobile now for all of those years, never looked back. Great customer service from people like you just heard Tim complaining about. They're U.S.-based. What's that mean? You can understand what they say. That's what that means, right? And they'll customize the plan that you need and your family needs. So if you want to keep your number, switch your number, keep your phone, upgrade your phone, all of that good stuff. They've got multiple networks within their main hub, so you can switch anytime that you want. Maybe you're locked into a contract with a company. You don't think you can get out of it. Well, they've got contract buyout programs for you as well. So If you make the switch today, use my name, Steve. When you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, you'll get started with a free month of service. A free month of service at patriotmobile.com/Steve using the code Steve. And we welcome back our good friend Tim Young here as we march on with your weekly look at the week that was.
Real quick,
Yes, Tim.
During the break, I found out that Elliot Page is it's actually going to be playing Achilles.
That's an important clarification, Tim. Thank you.
You know what the new Achilles heel is? Ovaries.
1 second here. Oddly placed itch. Where was I? Anyway, going on with your weekly look, I will be undaunted. I will not. I will not acknowledge this. I refuse. I don't believe it.
As soon as it becomes
I don't
100% verifiable, though, you're out, right?
I will.
You're out, right?
It cannot be verified because it just isn't happening. It's not possible.
And when it happens, you're out.
It won't be possible. It won't happen.
You'll kill it like Star Wars
it won't
when
happen.
it comes out, right?
It won't happen.
Right?
No, I don't, because I don't have to, because it's not going to occur. I'm confident this is just all a malicious rumor. Okay, a malicious rumor.
Achilles has to take a week off a month because he loses his temper for that week.
Let's get to issue 3. What happened to Megyn Kelly?
Islam is not consistent with the values of America, of the West. They should stay in countries that don't care about keeping church and state separated. They should stay in countries that don't care about protecting free speech. They should stay in countries that don't care about women's rights. That's where Islam can fester and grow. It's great. I mean, I'm sure if that's like your thing and you don't care about like genital mutilation, you might really enjoy living in an Islamic country. If you don't mind living in a life as a woman where you have to keep every inch of your body except for your eyeballs covered, yeah, it's someplace in the Middle East could be for you. It's not my thing. It's not America's thing. And it's not a thing that we should want or encourage in the West. I think he's understanding there may be some new listeners over here. You know, like he's gotten very, very popular lately, I read, with Muslim viewers because he's been standing up for Islam, you know? And I have to tell you, Mark, it's been something I've noticed just since I've gotten sort of more clear-eyed on Israel, that a lot of the anti-Muslim rhetoric that's put out there originates with people who are very, very pro-Israel, who kind of need us to demonize them. Right. And I've taken a look recently at my own rhetoric on this to say, like, have I been manipulated? I want to make sure I'm not getting manipulated. There's no such thing as Islamophobia. You are not only entitled to, quote, fear Islam, I would argue it's your duty as a Christian to stand up and fight against it. He's having a lot of Muslim viewers flock to him. And so while he may have lost some contingent of the Fox News audience that's very, very pro-Israel and, pro-Trump, and you can't say anything about Trump, for every one of those who leaves, there is another newer, younger audience member who does want to hear these traditional lines challenged and hear just new independent thinking. I mean, I'm experiencing some of that myself. It is not consistent with the values of the West or America, and therefore you have no problem. You should have no problem standing up against it.
How can you possibly explain something like this in 4 months? In 4 months. What new understanding, regardless of which of these positions you take, what new understanding would you have gained about Islam? Here's the great irony of this. And I keep hammering this point, and I'm going to keep hammering it until more of my colleagues bring it up, because I seemingly am the only one that brings this point up. And no one else brings it up. So let me bring it up again. We currently have the most comprehensive Arab alliance in the history of the United States of America right now. That's the great irony of this. We have never had more Arab allies as a people than we do right now, courtesy of Trump. And here's the great irony of this. These Arab allies are actually aligned with us in Israel right now against Iran. So you can't make the case that the war in Iran caused you to reassess Islam. Because if it did, the only way you'd reassess Islam is you would think, well, maybe we can be more friendly with these Arab nations. They're fighting against Iran with us. You see what I'm trying to say? The positions that are not congruent are that the Iran war and the fact that we're Israel's lapdog and Trump is Bibi's slave and female dog has me completely reassessing that maybe I bought a bunch of Jew. That's her case. That's the case she's making. I was sold a bunch of Zionist propaganda about Islam, which then she's admitting to you that when she made that clip in January 4 months ago, she wasn't her own person. She was a bought and sold slave of Israel. She's admitting that to you then for that to be true. But that's a side plot here, okay? But secondly, the galvanizing moment that has you reconsidering your position is that a bunch of other Arab Muslim countries are fighting against Iran with us. These things are not congruent. This would not be an event. This isn't a Japanese intern camp event of Muslims in America that would have you reconsidering things. There's no explanation I could conjure beyond either the most supernaturally sinister or the most materialistically craven and greedy. I can't conjure up any possible reason other than all the worst ones. I can't come up with any benign and innocent explanation for what we just watched. The only things I can come up with are all sinister to some degree. Somebody else talk. What the hell's going on here?
Her shift in opinion is like a young actress playing a pregnant girl in a cult classic called Juno and then going on to play Achilles in a modern day film.
I've never been prouder of the analysis of this program. Ever.
I'm the best at what I do.
Ever.
You guys could give me any topic and say make a comparison with it, and I could do it.
In my defense, I took this thing all the way to a 9, but I knew I needed Tim himself to push it over the edge and bring an 11. And Tim did not disappoint
on this season of Steve Days. We team up.
I think Kingpin and Daredevil are teaming up in season 3 next year. So you guys are like the precursor of that. There you go.
Could that show move slower?
That's true. It's an 8-episode series that needs to really be about a 3-episode series. The Netflix version was incredible. That was incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was going to say my real commentary is at least she could dress more modestly when she's talking about how good Islam is. I don't know if you noticed the difference. Her shirt was open there, and I don't think that her Islamic friends would really appreciate that if she could button it up when she's talking about how great Islam is.
I mean, see, Tim, what you're pointing out, this is why there's no good reasons for this. We all know, any of us that have interacted with this woman for more than 10 minutes, I have, you know she's way smarter than this. So you know there's no good reasons for this. You're sitting there with a shirt that nearly goes down to the cleavage line, talking about maybe I've misunderstood Islam, where in any Islamic country, including the most moderate one, UAE, they'd either at the minimum walk up to you and say, lady, button that shirt up, or at a maximum throw you in a prison cell for it, okay? And we all know this. And she has to know that we know this. That's why there's no benign, innocent explanations for this.
Occam's razor, you have to put it on the table. I think there's the Islamic version of, why can't we just all be groovy? But they've got their own enforcers of that. I think Occam's razor you have to put as one of the most likely options is that somebody approached her and Tucker and said, here's a big pile of cash, or here's your own personal October 7th. Which one do you want? Because we want better publicity, and we're going to get it. I don't know what the odds are of that, but I think Occam's razor says that it has to be having a seat at the table.
Yeah, because in broadcasting, typically, the way it's taught in the secular realm, and really it's, if you want to have a massive audience, you do this. You are a planet orbiting around the sun, S-U-N, sun. And the sun is the audience, and you're always you're a moon, you're reflecting back to the audience, or whatever. You're a planet orbiting around the sun. You're reflecting whatever the audience wants, whatever the sun wants, back to it. What we're trying to do, we're trying to broadcast the narrow way, we're trying to reflect the sun, S-O-N, back. That's what we're trying to do. Under that theorem, though, were there not millions of Muslims around the globe online 5 years ago? Were there not millions of Muslims around the globe, even in the United States,
this is a great
10
point.
years ago?
In other words, these clips were always here.
Now?
Yes.
Why now?
Yes.
Which leaves yourself open, what Todd was just saying. Why now? There's this massive untapped audience, apparently, that just happened to come across our planet in the last 5 minutes, and now all of a sudden, hey, looky there. Were these people not here 5 years ago?
That's a great
10
point.
years ago.
That's a point I've not heard anywhere else either, is what you just said.
So I don't. If you are operating under that assumption, you're leaving yourself open to questions like Todd just asked.
So we can't come up with any benign and innocent explanations for this. It's not just me. Nobody can.
No.
Let's get to the exit question. Who would be a better person to have as your neighbor here in America? Someone who believes Israel is a prophetic nation, or someone who believes the Muslims of Palestine are an oppressed people? Whom would you rather live next door to, do you think? Todd.
The former.
Yeah. Aaron, what about you?
The former.
Tim, what about you?
And they tried to burn my house down and rip down my American flag if they were the Palestinian person.
If we put the Wonder Woman lasso of truth around Megyn Kelly, what would her answer be, do you think?
The same.
The same.
The same.
Yeah. So again, no benign, innocent reasons for this. Let's get to the kicker topic, issue 4 here. If it's not the Jews, what other shadowy group should we be blaming all of our modern problems on instead? Whom would you suggest, Todd?
Oh, it's not even close, and it's playing out in real time. I mean, it's a non-sports bro. He's a destroyer.
Don't
of
ever
worlds.
say.
He's a happy destroyer of worlds.
Don't ever say, I never just tee it up for you. Don't ever say, I don't just hang a curveball on purpose. There's a classic anecdote. Mickey Mantle was at the end of his career, and I think it was Mickey Lolich, who just passed as the Tigers pitcher, just wanted to just give him a nice send-off and said, hey, Mick, serve one up for you, knock it over the fence, and he did. One last gallop around the old Tiger Stadium. Okay. Don't ever say I've never done that for you, because that's what I just did.
Well, and I cranked it right
You
out
did.
of the park.
And you should have. This was batting practice.
Yes.
Aaron, what's your answer?
Connor Stallions and the rest of his ilk.
Yes.
You gave the same answer as Todd.
Yes.
Tim, what about you?
They've already started transitioning to the Masons. They've been testing the Masons through Fuentes and their other people.
You see the thing with Fuentes?
I don't think the Masons did anything other than like crab boils now, but whatever.
Did you see the other thing the other day where Fuentes says, I'm a Democrat? Did you see this? Tim, did you see that? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I actively avoid people.
I do too. The thing is, man, the algorithm just demands feeding it to me. I mean, the algorithm makes it really hard to be active on social media and see nothing from him at all.
Well, after today, I'm hoping that because of Tim Young's hard work, that the algorithm is feeding you that who's playing Achilles in the Odyssey, and it's Ellen Page.
Elliot Page.
No, listen. I'm just not a purveyor of rumors and innuendo. I like data. Let's go to predictions. Aaron, you go first.
Man, it certainly seems like, especially with the news this morning, that the Virginia Supreme Court has struck down the redistricting. We are in Dr. Strange's one scenario here. It seems like a lot of things are just breaking Republicans' way. My prediction is, as of this moment, it's not going to be enough to save Republicans, at least in the House, come November.
So we'll have more analysis on this, I'm sure, next week, because its story just broke and we already had a weekend review in place. But someone needs to do that bit, that AI bit, all right, where Trump gets done screaming at John Thune, all right, and then looks over at Dr. Strange and he goes, all right, this is the one scenario. We just win by court rulings all over the country.
No, he has to be
one in a trillion.
He has to do that, but in that meme where he's yelling at the kid with the lawnmower, that's where he needs to be doing one.
Looks over and Dr. Strange is like, this is the one. But the math right now seems to indicate there's 16 toss-ups, which means, because this is we're heading into a map where Republicans could lose the general congressional ballot by like 6, 7, 8 points, which would normally be like a cataclysmic, like 50-seat, 40-seat loss, like we've seen in plenty of midterm elections. The Tea Party years under Obama, the Contract with America year. We saw it in Trump's first term in 2018. All right. The problem is, because everybody on both sides is now redistricting the most hardcore they possibly can, that you could lose it nationwide, but there's just not that many districts at a precinct level that are really competitive. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So right now we're sitting, the analysis I just saw during the last break, maybe about 16 to 20 toss-up districts right now. But a few of those will also go away with a little more redistricting as well. So this is fascinating to watch for sure. Tim, go ahead. I'm sorry, your prediction. Go ahead.
I had a different one that I was going to go with altogether, but I'm gonna go at Aaron. I think Republicans keep the House. I think it's going to be a shocker.
I mean, notwithstanding my confidence in the Republican Party, I would still love to see that.
Todd?
My take was also going to be about Virginia, but because of the angst that both of these guys being on opposite sides of this represent, there's police actions will be required at polling places in Virginia.
I could see that. Yeah. I could see that for sure. Listen, if you want to punish the Republican Party, you need to vote for them this fall. They've done everything they could to not govern for the last 2 years. They want to just have impeachment palooza so they can raise all kinds of money on, help us stop the Democrats. All right, the last thing they want to have to do is pull out this midterm and then have another 2 years to where they've got to show they can govern. That you want to punish these fools, make them try to govern some more. All right, that's the most painful thing you could possibly do. All right. My prediction is that nothing in the UFO files will cause any amount of critical mass of public outrage, outcry, despair, and I just think most normies will ignore it altogether like they tend to ignore pretty much everything else altogether.
That's real growth right there, Steve. You're making progress, America.
Oh, my. Tim, it was great to see you, my friend. Don't be a stranger, all right?
You think Achilles will get pregnant in the new movie, or just...
It was great to see you, Tim. It was great to see you. All right. Feedback Friday is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erzin. I am Steve Deace, and you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, please don't forget that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. A lot of you must have forgotten. That's why I have to keep reminding you. It's kind of weird because our YouTube numbers are like way behind literally every other platform on planet Earth. Like way behind. So let me just go ahead and remind all you guys, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. I mean, I'm sure that that's the explanation. That must be what it is. A couple 100,000 of you just forgot that, subscribe on all the other various platforms to reach our show every day, including Blaze TV. Y'all just forgot to hit subscribe on the biggest video platform in the history of the planet. I'm sure that's what it is, right?
You're saying there's a chance.
I mean, that's Aaron. I think that's a reasonable assumption. That must be what is occurring here.
Oh,
correct?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So, I mean, we would never allege anything nefarious. So, by all means, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel there. I'm sure it's just an oversight by a couple 100,000 of you. So, thank you. Maybe Ellen Page is in charge of subscriptions at YouTube too. You can also follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And then what else? And yeah, I think that's it, right? Oh, if you're a podcast listener, okay. Please hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple, iTunes, hit follow. That'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it's for sure they're in your feed. And then finally, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Isn't it weird? I'm sure, again, this is just got to be an oversight that we have more 5-star reviews on podcasts than we have total subscribers on YouTube, the biggest video platform in the world. Like many more. Way more.
I think we need a lawsuit update.
I just think people have forgotten to subscribe to YouTube. I'm sure that's what it is. Do your part, please. Okay? We're over here, all right, pushing the boulder uphill. All right. We're carrying Bill Walton up and down the court every night here. All right. You do your part, please, and subscribe to us.
How many Ellen Page jokes do you think I have in me?
Oh, my. This part of the show brought to you by friends over at Pocket Hose, the #1 expandable hose, the world's super... You stop. I saw you out of the corner of my eye. Don't.
Blame Pocket Hose, not me.
Don't. Don't. You have 4 daughters, sir. What is wrong with you? The truth of the matter really is Pocket Hose is pretty cool. Particularly this time of year. Taking the stuff out of the shed. Hoses have been there all winter long. Got all the kinks and everything in them. So you're like buying a new hose every year because it's just a pain to iron all those kinks out. You don't have to do that anymore. Pocket Hose is reinforced with liquid crystal polymer that's used in bulletproof vests that makes the anti-burst sleeve practically bulletproof. And the fiber there is actually 5 times stronger than steel comes than you see with steel. And it comes with the pocket pivot too, which gives you total freedom of movement at the spigot, 360-degree rotation. So as you move, it follows and the water flows. So again, you won't get tangled up as you're moving around the yard as well. I have been using this thing since we got stuff together for spring, and it's pretty freaking cool, man. All right. So for a limited time, when you purchase a new Pocket Hose Ballistic, you'll get a free 360-degree rotating pocket pivot and a free thumb drive nozzle, I should say. Just text DACE to 64,000 to take advantage of this great offer. All right. So no more kinks, and then it's not a pain to wrap up and put away. All right. It bursts forth in fullness when the water's in it, shrinks down to make it very pliable when the water is not. You could not. It's one of those things like when TiVo came along, you're like, why didn't they invent this from the beginning? I mean, that is how cool this thing is. All right, so text DACE to 64,000. That's DACE, my last name, to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. All right, message and data rates may apply. Text DACE to 64,000. All right, are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Let us begin here with Brian. And I get these questions a lot, and I know that they're being asked a lot. And that's why, for some of you that keep hearing me answer some of these questions over and over again, I think we're in an era right now that and I mean this sincerely. This is not tongue-in-cheek or sarcastically at all. I think we're in an era right now that we just need to be prepared to answer these questions a lot, okay? Because they're being asked more than they have been in previous eras. So Brian writes, this is a sincere question in my quest to understand what the hell is going on in the world. That's a great way to get me to read your email, by the way. All right. As the chosen people, are Jews still required to accept Jesus Christ as Messiah to gain eternal life, or are they exempt? The Jewish nation has consistently defied God throughout the ages. They have worshipped false idols, etc. So how do we know that the current iteration of the nation of Israel is sanctioned by sanctioned by God in accordance with His will? So again, I get these questions a ton, and I'm prepared to answer them over and over and over again because I think we're in an era that, frankly, we need to be prepared to answer them over and over again. All right? Everybody is under the Orthodox Christian understanding. All right? So what we mean is by the traditions of Christianity, down through the 2,000 plus years of our faith, that even when we were at times within our various tribes at war with each other, we still believed in these things. The things that have been as Jude says, all right, the things that have been preserved for the saints and passed down. That's what I mean when I talk about orthodoxy, right? Things that everybody that believes in Jesus, that truly believes in the risen Lord, is betting their eternal soul on. That's what we mean. The stuff in the closed hand, okay? Everyone believes you're either under grace or law. The only way to be under grace is through Christ. The only atonement that satisfies the wrath of God against the sinfulness of you and all of mankind is the blood of Jesus shed for you at the cross, the lamb slain before the foundation of the world, the perfect, spotless lamb who shed his blood for you. All right? The son of the woman, the proto-evangelion, all the way back in Genesis, previewed. And Mel Gibson's, that's what Mel Gibson's The Passion is depicting in the Garden of Gethsemane there. when he accepts the will of the Father for the final time, and he sets about the events that lead us to Passion Week, and he crushes the head of that serpent there. That's right out of what's called the Proto-Evangelion, all the way back in Genesis, where God preaches the first messianic sermon himself. So you're under grace only through Christ, or you're under law, a law that you can't keep. And this is true whether you're Jew or Gentile, which just means non-Jewish person alike. This is true for all of the world. This is what Christian orthodoxy has always believed. I know Tucker and others are telling you people that dispensationalist or pro-Israel Christians or Christian Zionists do not believe that Jews need Jesus. He either is greatly misinformed or he's lying, and I don't know which one that it is. It is true, and gaslighters have a tendency to do this. Like the other day, Candace Owens claimed that the day that the Daily Wire announced some layoffs, that they also had to get rid of their sports show for a lack of resources. I can tell you for a fact that's not true because I'm good friends with one of the co-hosts of that sports show, the Cone and Crane and Cone. Is it true that there was a show called Crane and Company that was a sports show on Daily Wire that is no longer on Daily Wire? Is that true?
Yes.
Is it true that last week or earlier this week, Daily Wire announced some layoffs? Is that true?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Those are bad. This is what gaslighters do. If there wasn't any truth in what they claimed, then you wouldn't be tempted to believe. I mean, if the devil said that chick's really ugly, she can't do anything for you, and she won't do anything to excite you whatsoever if you get naked with her, would you be tempted to sleep with her? Is that a selling pitch that you think, yeah, I think maybe I should wreck my entire marriage and family based on that piece of evidence? No. He's going to tell you she's gorgeous, beautiful, and she'll light your world on fire. And right, that's the stuff that would attract you.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, but then he's gaslighting because he's not telling you what the full consequences of these actions are ultimately going to be. Right. So Candace is correct. There was a sports show called Crane and Company. It's no longer there. She's correct that Daily Wire announced some layoffs. These events are not connected at all. All of 2025. The Crane and Company people were dealing with whether or not to stay at Daily Wire or On3. And I only know because David has talked to me about that as his friend. Wanted somebody new that was a little bit older, that understood more about the business, that could maybe help him understand a few things that maybe him and those guys, maybe this is their first show, they didn't understand. They had a very amicable split with Daily Wire. Daily Wire gave them a very competitive offer to stay. They wanted the show to stay. They made that very clear. And that's also why they had an amicable split. And David, I think, he still does like a film room show, I think, for Daily Wire now. Because, I was on it in October. So, again, isolated events that may both be true but don't connect. That's a classic satanic deception. So how does that apply here? Was there a movement several years ago of hardcore pro-Israel Christian Zionists to push this idea called dual covenant theology, which takes dispensationalism's notion that the church and Jews are on a separate prophetic track, and then says that Jews don't require the atonement from Christ at the cross whatsoever? There was. One or two prominent ministers tried to push this at the time. I won't mention them because they're not preaching it anymore. Therefore, I don't think it would be fair. Okay? But one or two prominent ministers did try to preach that at the time. And then a couple of other prominent ministers. In fact, one of the last things he did before he died was Jerry Falwell Sr. rebuked this. I would tell you at a bare minimum, most conservative estimate, Brian, I could give you is 90% of pro-Israel Christians or dispensationalists believe everybody, Jew and Gentile alike, requires belief in Christ for salvation. And I'm probably being unkind at saying it's only 90%. Who are the people that are spending money to evangelize Israel? It's frankly not the Reformed people aren't doing it. It's the dispensationalists who are doing it. It's the pro-Israel churches that are spending all the money to go into Israel and spread the gospel. So that's just entirely untrue of many things Tucker says these days that are simply not true. Now the separate question you ask about whether or not the nation of Israel is still a prophetic nation is a good question. But the premise by which you ask it is not correct, with all due respect. You're asking the question by virtue of what you perceive as their obedience to God. No human being can keep a covenant with God. That's why Christ had to go to the cross. God has to fulfill the covenants himself. We can't keep them. That's why the Holy Spirit comes to believers to seal our testimony, to sanctify us, to make us more Christ-like. Because we turn around and lose our salvation in 5 seconds if it was possible to do so. We'd find a way. We're at war with our own flesh the minute we're saved, not just the world and the devil. So this is why does Jesus call the Holy Spirit the helper? What's the helper going to do? Help you obey. Help keep you on the narrow road. Help keep you growing in your faith. Knowing the will of God, and then more importantly than knowing it is the doing of it. That's what that means. That's what a helper does. So, at what point in the Old Testament, gentlemen, does Israel perfectly keep God's law?
Never.
Never. Okay. And yet the entire Old Testament, we agree throughout the entirety of the Old Testament, do we not? All three of us, 2 Protestants and a Catholic, we all agree throughout the entirety of the Old Testament that it is very clear that Israel is God. Old Testament Israel is the covenant people of God throughout the entire Old Testament. We all agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Now the disagreement comes: did they hand it off to the church in the New Age? That's the disagreement. We've been disagreeing about this within the church for a couple thousand years, but we all agree that God's covenant people was the nation of Israel in the Old Testament, right?
Yes.
And then before we answered that question, though, we all could not come up with a moment when the nation of Israel, every last one of its citizens, perfectly kept God's law, correct?
Right.
You see where I'm going with this? The ultimate keeping of covenants with God does not depend on us. If it did, we wouldn't need Jesus. If it did, then a guy named Abraham would have just one day got up on his own and said, you know what? I think I want to have as many descendants as the stars in the sky, and I think I'm going to leave this really wealthy household in the middle of a rock where I live and just go to this foreign country several hundred miles away and call out to this God I don't know. If that's what he would have done, right? He'd just taken the initiative the entire time, right?
Sure.
But did you do any of those steps?
No.
No, God initiated every step of the way, correct?
Yes.
And that's how the nation of Israel began, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So God has to initiate covenants and then has to seal them. We can't do it. We're sinners. We can't. But Steve, God said, if you worship me, I will keep your land secure. Did not Moses say in his farewell address, so I've set before you blessing and cursing, life and death. Choose life so that you may live in the land. Is that not what he said?
Yep.
Yep. And did God punish them when they did not, when they committed the acts that Brian describes here? Did he not punish them for that?
Yes.
So there was not necessarily a condemnation, like he did not necessarily eject them from his covenant, but at the same time, there were consequences for what they did, correct?
Yes.
You follow me here? How does it work now for us? Paul says in the book we just finished studying for the last 2 years on this show, in Romans, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ. If you are in Christ, your soul is not condemned. What's condemned mean? Gone. Forsaken. That's what the word means. And usually not temporarily. So if you're in Christ, that can't happen to you. But does that mean that if you now succumb to your flesh, there will be, or the snares of the devil, there will be no consequences? You may cheat on your spouse. Your spouse may not forgive you, or at least not offer up the forgiveness that includes keeping and restoring the relationship. That news may get out into the public. It may cause a scandal for you. It may cause embarrassment for you. You may then sincerely go back to Christ and repent. Will he forgive you?
Yes.
Yes. Will he take away the consequences of the actions you just had, though?
No.
Will he then go to your wife and say, let the whole thing go? Will he go to the community and say, just forget the whole thing, like at the end of the last Spider-Man movie when they forgot Peter Parker was Spider-Man? All your friends, all your family, they'll all forget the scandal that you caused. That'll happen?
That will not happen.
So there will still be consequences, right?
Yes.
But if you go back to him and repent and ask forgiveness, there will be no condemnation, right?
Right.
Is it not the same pattern?
Yeah.
Same pattern. Now, one of the reasons why these questions get asked so much of us on this show is because they're not getting answered very much in your churches, and they haven't been for the last generation. And that's why you're ripe for the pickings from the likes of Tucker and Candace et al. because you just haven't been discipled. Many of you are probably hearing what I just said when this was standard operating pastoral procedure in America for 200 plus years. Many of you just heard how I explain this to you from the old to the new for the very first time in your lives, including all the people watching on YouTube that they won't count later on. That is a problem. And that has more to do with why we're in the predicament we are as a culture today than literally anything else. The pump was primed. For the moment that we're in right now, the pump was primed. Or should I say, not so much. It was just kind of left alone. Not that anybody I'm quite fond of experienced this recently, but suppose you just, neglected to turn the light off in your car over and over and over again. The day would come, all right, when you go to start it up and the battery's gone. That's a great analogy for what happened to the church. Except in this case, it just kept its light off. Turn the light off. And so now we are absolutely vulnerable to all these tropes, all these buzzwords that previous generations all already were taught how to work through. And oh, by the way, the abortion rate in Israel is significantly lower than our own. The homosexuality rate in Israel is roughly about our own. The fertility rate in Israel, way higher than our own. Now, did anything I just say make a case that they're still a prophetic nation?
No.
No, because it's not based on how we behave, but what he does through us. The reality is, it doesn't matter if you think they're a prophetic nation or not, because we're commanded to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Let's go back to the question I asked at the end of the last hour. Who would be a better neighbor? The person who believes Israel is still a prophetic nation, or the person who believes that the people of Palestine are oppressed? Anyone within the sound of my voice, and all the people YouTube won't count, how would they all answer this question, do you think?
Former.
The former. Why is that? Because we have to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, and the people with the other worldview, they don't. They don't. And in fact, in their worldview, they're encouraged not to. And they're kind of considered wimpy if they do it anyway. And if you're one of them that does it anyway, then the militant ones who are truly following the word on the other side, they turn on you for simping for people like us. Thoughts before I move on?
I'm ready to move on.
Okay. Yeah. Before we do, don't forget about our friends over at Fast Growing Trees. They've got the largest, most extensive online nursery in America. And that's one of the reasons why they've got over 2 million happy customers. But there's a few other reasons why. It's their Alive and Thrive guarantee that promises that your plants arrive happy and healthy. All right. You don't have to have a green thumb or even a green pinky. All right. Just want some quality plants, and their plant experts will help you find the right ones for your indoors, or the right trees or shrubs or bushes for your outdoors. And then they'll help you learn how to take care of them as well, every step of the way. Right now, they've got great deals for spring planting season. All right, up to half off on select plants. But if you've never gone to Fast Growing Trees before, get an additional 20% off right now when you use the code DACE at checkout. That's an additional 20% off right now at fastgrowingtrees.com. Code DACE at checkout for your first-time order to get another 20% off. Code DACE on your first-time order for another 20% off at fastgrowingtrees.com. And again, I'm happy to answer these questions. I know they need to be answered a lot. They're getting asked a lot. So I'm going to answer them as often as they come up, as often as I possibly can. All right, let's go here. This is from Sarah. She says, I've been listening to your program every day since the COVID era. Thank you, Sarah. And I really appreciate you guys as Christian witness and your boldness for the gospel. My husband and I were recently in Rome. That's number one on my list when they invent transporter technology, Rome. Just going to pass my molecules over there, see everything I've ever wanted to see, come right back home. Not have to spend the night, not have to travel 12 hours. Number one on my list, Rome. We took the Colosseum tour. Our guide repeatedly emphasized that the games were about gladiators fighting wild animals, and it was all entertainment. When I asked separately about the Christians and slaves who were also killed here, and mentioned the monk Telemachus who opposed the game. She acted as if the monk was completely new information to her. My people perish for lack of knowledge, a prophet once said. She then went on to tell me she has an extensive education. Of course she does. It takes hard work to be this dumb. We're all sinful. We're not all stupid. Including, she said, a PhD. One of the number one markers if someone's going to vote Democrat in America today, I kid you not, if they have a PhD. If they're unmarried, that's one. Way more likely to vote Democrat. If they have a PhD, way more likely to vote Democrat. And she's been, of course, studying this subject for years. Trust the experts, guys. She claimed that much of what we've been told is, quote, propaganda. When I pressed her further to explain herself, she simply said, well, many people died. At least she didn't say there was good people on both sides. Come on. She went so far as to explain that the cross erected by Pope John Paul II in the Colosseum was for the killed animals. A quick search, even on ChatGPT, hardly a reliable source, confirms it was placed there to honor the Christian martyrs. Anyway, I don't have a direct question. I just wanted to pass this along. I'm truly disappointed that this Christian history is being rewritten. We've chosen to educate our children with classical Christian education, make sure that the truth, at least in our family, gets passed on. It's just disgusting that the story of these martyrs, which ended these games, is now being called, quote, propaganda. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Well, listen, I applaud your stepping into the breach and just saying, no,
I'm going to call BS on that.
I paid to come over here.
Yeah.
I ain't getting urinated on in Rome. No,
Yep.
that's good. But
I might get urinated on in Rome, but it's not going to be here on this tour.
But listen, the simple truth is most Christians, if I have to get urinated on every once in a while just to be comfortable, that's just part of the toll that I got to play. You are in the place of the original bread and circus. And now we are more addicted to those circuses than ever before, which is why, even though she couldn't get it away with you, I guarantee you she gets away with it all the time because we have no standards in that church that Steve just got lamenting other than our comfort. We want our ears tickled. We really don't want to get, it's messy. Let's all just be nice. So yeah, we got that circus, that Colosseum is alive and well. It's not a relic. That's the only thing. If that's the main thing you wanted to see, you don't need to go to Rome to see that. We've got them all over here in America, and we are sacrificing Christians there all the time. We're doing it to ourselves, though. That's what's even more amazing.
I'm not sure how I could follow that.
Okay. We'll move on. I wanted to confidentially tell you that I work for and with higher education institutions, so please pray for me. Both admissions and athletic departments, helping them with their recruiting strategies and analytics around their prospects' decision-making process. Remember in Die Hard when Holly discovers that Hans is actually just a common thief who was in it for the money? That's the reason colleges love foreign students. They almost always pay 100% of the tuition costs, the sticker price listed on the website that almost no U.S. family pays to have their children go to the school. Most, as you know, pay about 50% of what the listed price is, but the foreign kids, they pay 100%. The colleges think they need the money. Most are cash flow driven, and that's a huge revenue line item for them. I was hoping that that this would get brought up more often in terms of why this is going on with so many foreign students in our universities. Now, certainly the indoctrination motivation at the professional staff level is 100% true on most campuses. But the college leaders are squarely looking at Chinese communist youngsters with the same look Hans had when he countered that he was an exceptional thief and had just moved up to kidnapping. Great Die Hard reference there, by the way.
Hey.
Okay. That's a great Die Hard reference and how you analogized that, Mr. Name withheld by request. But you guys' thoughts on that?
This is delicious. Just incredible. Incredible. You mean to tell me that all of these various institutions of higher education, where some of the worst ideas have been incubated in our nation, especially in recent generations, ideas like redistribution of wealth forcibly, things like that, although it's, other euphemisms are used to describe that. Redistribution of wealth, communism, socialism, all this and that. All of these universities and institutions, totally cool with that. totally preach that, encourage that. But big-time capitalists when it comes to foreign students, especially the ones from the Chinese Communist Party. If that's not some delicious irony for you, I don't know what is.
And you need that money to, pay for all of that bloat. Listen, we're having the same conversation as what's happening to athletics. They have to do this because, newsflash, there's not too much money in college academic side of things. There just isn't. So they've got to do this. Now, all the idol worshipers, I love sports, rub it all over my body 24/7 all the time, who told you and lied to you there was too much money not to pay the players, that was a lie. Now they've got to do all this expansion in both sports that apparently everybody hates, even though they were rooting it on early on. And now they're like, oh my God, what have I done? Because there was never too much money. And they have to do this because they have to bail themselves out just to have barely enough money just to destroy it all together. And I told you from the beginning, there's not too much money in any of this in college. There's just a ton of awful, idolatrous decision-making, whether we have to have the women's studies program and we need to transgender your kids, or we need to have NIL and transfer portal and all this stuff. All lies. All idols, but none that you will smash.
Your daughter just won an award. What was it?
SEC Female Scholar Athlete of the Year.
So I just wanted to reset that because, one, that's pretty darn cool. But number two, do not just yelling these things from the cheap seats. I mean, you're heavily invested actually in this.
I'm trying to save this. I desperately am trying to save this.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to reset that. We'll come back. More of your feedback on a Feedback Friday next.
Steve Deace Show.
Hey, Jevity wants to take away all the excuses for why you don't take more control over your health. No more, I'll get to it. No more, it's too expensive. No more, I don't know where to start. They'll help you with all of that. In fact, they even can help you with cost. They just started a new free tier as well. So if you've got your own labs, and you want to run them through Jevity to kind of just have them for free, take a look at what those numbers are and give you a plan for what they would suggest you do. And you can decide whether you want to take that plan, go somewhere else with it, not do that plan, do some of it, do none of it. They just really want to be here to help your, longevity, hence the name, right? Jevity for longevity, Geviti. I'm on my first week with their supplement plan right now after going through all their labs, and I was very impressed with the information they provide. Their online care team, very responsive as well. All right, so you can start for free, see all your data, then decide what comes next. That's how healthcare should work, right? It's your health, it's your timeline, and it's your money. All right, so go to gojevity.com if you decide you do want to upgrade and go with them all the way. Get 20% off with the code DACE. That's gojevity, Geviti. Gojevity.com, use the code DACE for 20% off. No more excuses. Take care of yourself, all right? Gojevity.com. I need you to, listen, we need you to keep trying to subscribe to YouTube if nothing else. If there's literally no other point to your life, I think maybe you're still here to see if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think that's a fair. I mean, we believe in the purpose-driven life. Your purpose is to see if YouTube will count your subscription to our page. So don't tap out yet, all right? Until you can't tap out, I think this is a fair trade. You can't tap out until YouTube counts your subscription to our show.
And
that's why you're going to need some longevity. You're going to need all the help you can get to last that long.
If you subscribe, we can see about getting you a Hawaiian shirt, just like Rick Warren would want you.
Indeed. That's a value added. We'll throw that in for you. Gojevity.com, code DACE for 20% off. All right, let's continue on. All right, T. Brian Price has a check on me. Let's see if he's got a point. Okay. I was excited to hear that you'd been summoned for jury duty a couple weeks back. I believe I have a unique perspective on this because I've been a felony prosecutor for about a decade and mainly handling major crimes against women and children the last several years. I work in a conservative rural county, a county that voted for Trump by over 75%. However, in the last year, I have noticed a trend happening in our juries, even here, where it's very red. It seems that more and more solid conservative people are doing their best to get out of jury duty, similar to what you described yourself doing, having strong, hard opinions to try to make sure they get struck. Meanwhile, it seems that the other side has no problem keeping quiet to try to get on the jury. Just this past year, we've had 2 juries that deadlocked 11-1 to convict on child molestation cases. Both times, we later found out that the lone holdout was someone who moved to this area from a major city and was clearly left-wing. I would just like to implore upon you and your audience the importance of jury duty. By no means should anyone lie, but going into jury duty with the thought of how can I get out of it cannot be the answer. If we want to hold people accountable, like is often talked about, then that can only happen if we have good juries. As your show always says, be a citizen. Nothing is more fundamental to that than jury duty. Now, let me just say a couple things. I don't even know if they're in my defense. I'm not necessarily trying to defend myself because you're pretty much right. To add a little context, I was informed in advance it was not going to be at the criminal. Our juries report here in Des Moines to 2 different buildings. There's a criminal building and a civil building. So I was already aware of the fact this was going to be a civil case, not a criminal case, number 1. Number 2, citizen is literally what I do all day long. What was I doing on the phone when I walked in here?
Citizening.
I was citizening. What will I likely do 5 minutes after I leave here when I have to get back on the phone?
More citizening.
What will I pretty much be doing most of this weekend and most days when I'm not even on the air? Citizening. All right. So in my case, I would argue asking me to do this was getting in the way of all the other stuff, citizening stuff that I have to do. Okay. But that could also be extremely self-centered, arrogant, and selfish. And I realize that at the exact same time. All right. So, but if I didn't think your central point was not accurate, then I would not have read it on the show. So, duly noted, Mr. T. Brian Price.
See, that's as important as anything else. Steve will submit this into evidence. Let's talk about this. It might be a hard conversation. I pretty much agree with everything you said and you said, because I know specifically that's like most people are trying to get out of not only jury duty, but more broadly. And you're right. Apply this generally to being a citizen on every level, which is why I'm insanely relentless, just like I was on 2 questions last segment about this kind of stuff. You are absolutely right. As it does apply specifically, and I already I knew all those details. But yeah, if Steve asked me point blank, and these are the kind of things Steve asked me point blank about, shouldn't I? I would have given him a version of your answer, and you would be right. But Steve,
I promise you, if it was the kind of case that you're talking about, at first I still would have been annoyed. But once I got there and found out, my entire understanding of the situation would have changed. Once I got there, and it wasn't even we're not talking the civil case either, where some ag company is poisoning people's water. A couple signed a lease or signed onto a mortgage of a new home without an inspection that was in their contract, so as is. All right. They've then found out so they forewent the inspection and signed it as is. They then found out they had bought a lemon. Right. And so the whole thing was whether or not as is means as is, because that's what they forewent the inspection. And I'm looking at my watch thinking, I've got a governor's primary here. I'm frankly trying to fix, if I'm being honest, because the entire damn thing's broken. I've got 37,000 other things going on. Someone else could have been discussing whether as is meant as is. This really wasn't like an earth-shattering check of citizenship that really this was taking away from all the other citizening that I had to do that day. But again, that could be entirely self-centered and arrogant.
That isn't. That 2 things can be true simultaneously. And if Steve didn't think so, he wouldn't have read your email.
Correct.
It's a good email.
But it's a good check in general. In general, you are correct. It's a good check. And the founders viewed juries as essentially the 4th unannounced branch of government. That ultimately, when you ran out of total options and everything went against you, that the last place you could go was to a jury of your peers to essentially nullify whatever the state was trying to do to you with their knuckle draggers.
We got to rebuild the honor. Bob and I talked about this when you were late getting in here because of, was it that?
Yeah, it was that day.
It was that day.
Yeah.
So ironically, here we are. Conservatives are all only waiting to do something or get involved or get angry about something at the 11th hour when things are bad. No, you have to want to be involved because it's an honor to be part of this. This is the only reason why republics and democracies are going to the Greeks, to going to the Romans, who also mess that up all the time. But that was the point. It's an honor to be a governor of your own life, but that requires a cost, a want to. If you're just dragged kicking and screaming into it, you're not a citizen, you're a slave, no matter what you think you believe.
100%. 100%. I would also, though, add the likelihood, the kind of case you'd want me, someone like me, to be a juror on, they'd never let me be a juror on that kind of case. I wouldn't even get to the first screening phase. I mean, can you imagine that? Okay. I mean, but anyway, go ahead.
Hey, I was going to say, I mean, if it's a case, like if you're called into the courthouse and you're being, by the bailiff or whoever is informing you, and you're like, hey, we've got this case. There's a young lady who became a man, and now she is playing Achilles in the upcoming Odyssey.
Like that.
That is something that you would say, yep, that's me.
I mean, I would absolutely make sure I was on that jury. 100%. Yeah. Thankfully, such a thing has never actually occurred. So I didn't have to
sounded pretty
devote my
realistic
time.
to me. Aaron.
It's a strange hypothetical indeed. It's kind of random.
I thought it hits pretty close to home.
I mean, it's weird he just pulled that out of nowhere, but he is a creative genius. Let's continue. Chanel writes, listen, man, it's May 8th. I've got 2.5 months to dodge this vicious rumor, and don't think that I'm not prepared to do it. Janelle writes, I am very thankful of your podcast and listen daily. I think you three are godly men, and I learn a lot when I listen to you. I have a question about Tim Keller. I'm wondering why you often bring up his name as someone who was a weak preacher. He's been a bright light in my life. I'm wondering if you've ever listened to his podcast on the gospel in life. I've never heard anything from Tim in the podcast that sounds so outside of biblical principles that you would need to pick on him. Perhaps you know something I don't know. I've never looked deeply to find out if he has some weird views, but over the last 5 years, I've listened to him regularly. He's been such a help in my life spiritually. So I would not say, well, I would say for sure Warren has delved into some heretical views in recent years. I'm not even sure Joel Osteen has even preached the gospel before. Tim Keller has been a different kind of problem. Tim Keller has been what much of the church was in this last generation. That the gospel is this standalone construct over here. And then the rest of the world happens over here. Let me ask you a question. Would you expect to be a vocal, influential Christian in New York City and never run into any controversy and so, even before it elected a Muslim? It's been a very left-wing city for how many years, correct?
Right.
So, especially in the post-Giuliani era, would you expect to never be harassed for your views or to cause any controversy for your views whatsoever if you were using all of the influence you had, just you as an individual in a city like New York, like even with like neighbors or anything? Now imagine you're the head of a very large church and you're talking to thousands of people. And what you're teaching and preaching them could, if properly discipled, cause them to then leave your teaching and go out and magnify as a collective influence against all of these various spirit of the age influences already at play in the city, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How much did we see evidence of that? How much did the power structure of New York City say, we got to do something about that Tim Keller guy? Why Charlie Kirk get shot in the throat? Because he was doing that. Because he was apostolically making disciples that went out and did those things. Tim Keller was not, and he wasn't trying to. And he would go even further later in his life and attack people like me who were. The idea that the gospel is some hermetically sealed formula. Do I think people got saved through Tim Keller? Absolutely. What he preached was often orthodoxy. But even at the end of his life, did you know Tim Keller separated his congregation by back status? Did you know that during COVID? Because he did. Separated him by back status. John Piper would be in this group too. I can't tell you how many hours of John Piper I listened to. I had a conversation with our CEO, Tyler, yesterday, and he was telling me that he is running into people in Dallas who are moving, young men who are moving to Dallas just to go to Josh Howerton's church. And I said, 20, 25 years ago, young men moved to Minneapolis just to go to John Piper's church. Now young men wouldn't be caught dead listening to John Piper. Why? Because Donald Trump was like really mean or something, and so that meant we just had to surrender the entire culture. John Piper went from Operation Rescue, where he was laying down in front of abortion clinics, to, I really appreciate the Somalis in my neighborhood when we vote together. He just posted that in the last election cycle. See, this is what happened when you decide that the gospel is not here to intersect with the wider world. It was happy to give Tim Keller all the accommodation he wanted because it knew. The enemy knew that Tim wasn't a threat. So sure. And he didn't want to be. And he condemned those of us who thought you should be. The cross is a perpendicular structure. Two beams intersect and do so painfully. And at the center of that is Christ, painfully affixed to the intersections of these two structures. Follow me here? If you've never faced that as a believer at all, if you are collectivizing hundreds, if not thousands of people under the banner of Christ, and you haven't faced that, or your institution or building has not faced that at all, you should ask yourself if we're really preaching words of love seasoned with salt here. There's no way to do this without causing confrontation. And if anything, if Tim Keller was about anything, it was conflict avoidance. Unless it was to conflict and confront people like me. And then we were the problem. If we all just stayed in our silos and preached the gospel and didn't concern ourselves. Rick Warren had at one point the largest church in America right there in the heart of Southern California. What's one of the most left-wing parts of the entire country?
That.
Bill Hybels at one point had the largest church in America right there in the heart of Chicago. What's one of the most left-wing parts of the country? Joel Osteen has the largest church in America right there in the heart of Houston. What's one of the most left-wing parts of America? That.
But you asked too much, Steve. Those guys huddled in a room after their Messiah was crucified and then rose from the dead went from they were huddled, terrified before he came into the upper room and the Holy Spirit came upon him. And now, 2,000 years later, how many Christians are there in the world? But it's impossible for you to make an impact in your inner city or something like that, Steve. How dare you think that high and mighty?
You'll never get to find any great Christian influence in the history of the church that didn't leave behind some form of conflict and social change. Right before World War II started, there was a book written in England called England Before and After Wesley, talking about the Methodist revivals. And it's somewhat depicted in this latest movie, the American Awakening movie about George Whitefield, which is excellent, by the way. You should go see if it's still out. If not, get it on PVOD. Because he came out of the Methodist revivals and left those to come and bring those here to America. And the whole book dictates how vastly different England was before and after Wesley. Because you aren't, if you're really doing this to the fullness of it, if you're doing it to the fullness of it, there's no way not to cause friction and conflict. And as Jesus himself once said, if they're going to do this to a green tree, what are they going to do to you? I'll wrap it up from there. Give it over to you guys the balance of the time. We got about 90 seconds left. Final thoughts.
Well, look at the news cycle out there. I mean, we haven't, Steve mentioned it as an aside today, sort of. But now that the alien and stuff, like you've got to plant deep, deep spiritual roots so that limbs will grow and create life and create shade for the rest of the world. It's not just about you. And I think your honest question about Tim Keller, it felt nothing but honest. But I think there's a level of naivete out there when you're looking out at the culture and the difference between Steve, who you listen to, and Keller. It's just pretty obvious. There's way too many who believe that they've planted roots for themselves. And now that people like you are buying books or listening to podcasts, that's enough. It's not even close to enough, and it never has been, and it never will be.
The bottom line every single week, if we could beat this into our own heads over and over again, and I know these two men do their utmost to do that, and as much as we can reinforce this over and over and over again. As a rule, be uncomfortable. do the uncomfortable thing. As a rule.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. Whatever that is, am I talking about, yep, that. Am I talking about, yes, the answer is yes. Don't get comfortable being uncomfortable, just get uncomfortable. Do the uncomfortable thing.
And there is nothing more uncomfortable than confronting the kingdoms of this world with
Yes.
the word of Christ. Nothing more. Go hard, Romans 8:28.